Sitcoms have made the TV world spin for decades now, and as much as they have always been the lifeblood of the industry, there have consistently been folks trying to predict the death of the genre, especially in the last 5 years or so. And now that the streaming wars have started and the endless pipeline of new content has hit its ultimate saturation point, it seemed like that could be more true now than ever. The days of the classic 90s sitcoms like Fresh Prince, Seinfeld, or Friends have been over for a while now, and things like Modern Family, How I Met Your Mother, The Office, and Parks and Rec came and went with the times. Of course, there are a few threads that the older demographic are still pulling on, like the Goldbergs, young Sheldon for some reason, or even Fox's animated lineup. But it's really hard to get the buzz to go that direction nowadays, and that has been evident by award show trends with piles of Emmys and Golden Globes for comedies and dramas being handed to some of the biggest streamers in the game. Enter Quinta Brunson, who has single-handedly put the idea of a flagship network sitcom back on the map with Abbott Elementary.
I'm Janine Teagues. I've been teaching here at Abbott Elementary for a year now. The staff here is incredible.
Of course, I'm going to talk about the show itself and why it works, but first, let's talk about how its development and history came to be, which to me is as equally as important here. Quinta Brunson is one of us, meaning she hails from the internet. She gained popularity with an Instagram comedy sketch series and then went on to produce content for BuzzFeed. Quinta worked for BuzzFeed Video until 2018, going on to work on other projects such as acting in a few CW shows and writing and producing for an HBO series called A Black Lady Sketch Show. She was also bumping elbows with some of the streamers and the network giants in an attempt to produce pilot episodes for various comedy series, but nothing came to fruition until ABC picked up Abbott Elementary. And this wasn't by accident either. Quinta took Abbott to ABC with the intention of finding a home for it there. In an interview with Vulture, which I'll link in the description down below, she highlights how traditional broadcasting still has mass appeal, saying, quote, "Any person, even an inmate in prison, can turn on TV and watch a network television show. Streaming, even though we know it's massive, still requires a subscription. Not anyone can pick up a remote and turn on a streaming platform, but you can do that with ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. And in an era of prestige television and exhausting multiverses, universal appeal is still important. Abbott is a fun and lighthearted comedy that is accessible to anyone who watches it."
So I think that people are enjoying having something new to look at that kind of gives them that energy. Like I've seen multiple people say, I turn off Euphoria and then watch Abbott for a palate cleanse.
So season 1 of this show, which had 13 episodes, 22 minutes each, began airing in December of 2021, with a small break in between January and February. The show aired weekly on ABC and was later available on Hulu for folks who wanted to check out the show but didn't want to go to the traditional cable route. This multi-pronged approach worked out well, garnering millions of viewers following its debut. The show is now tied with ABC's The Conners as the network's #1 sitcom, and it currently ranks as one of the top comedies in all of network TV. So that's some basic context for how exactly Abbott is turning heads and breaking ground, but what is it about the show that specifically is so appealing? The premise of Abbott is simple. It's a mockumentary-style sitcom similar to Parks and Rec or The Office. The series follows the life and times of some quirky elementary educators trying to stay above water at an underfunded public school in West Philadelphia. Let's talk about the characters first. Janine Teagues, played by Quinta, is a newbie second-grade teacher eager to make a difference in her students' lives despite the obvious financial challenges at play. Janine is optimistic and sort of a Leslie Knope type character. She's also been in a 10-year-long relationship with her boyfriend Tariq, played by Zach Fox, which as a chronically online person and a longtime fan of The Cave with Kenny Beats, is just an impeccable casting choice.
I want a beat that sound like RuneScape mixed with Jodeci, mixed with almond milk, mixed with domestic violence. I want to put a domestic violence filter on it. I want to
Hold on.
Make me a pro-lifer beat.
Janine's enthusiasm is juxtaposed with a quirky cast of characters who have been there, done that, and are just trying to get through the day, but never in a way that feels overly mean or cynical. Take Melissa, for example, my personal favorite character in this show. She's another second-grade teacher from South Philly who genuinely loves teaching and working with kids, but instead of dealing with the system, she often goes the extra mile to support them by using her shady mob connections to get supplies. She also will not hesitate to throw down with anyone, and she reminds me a lot of my own family members.
Get your girl and tell her to watch out because you don't know who you're messing with.
And then there's Barbara Howard, a kindergarten teacher who Janine looks up to. She commands respect in her classroom and is regarded as the best teacher at Abbott Elementary. Barbara has been teaching for 30 years, and while she loves her kids, has grown tired of how the public school system has failed her, but works her hardest to try to give her class the best regardless. Ava Coleman is the school's principal, who has no educational experience, but managed to get the job by blackmailing the district superintendent. And then there's Jacob Hill, an awkward history teacher who is comedically hyper-aware at his fish out of water status at Abbott. He tries to overcompensate for this by being a cringy neoliberal, which never works. And then finally there's Greg, a substitute teacher who ultimately wants to be a principal but is stuck teaching at Abbott due to some awkward circumstances. He has a crush on Janine and is sort of the straight man of the bunch, reacting as the audience would to the insanity that is happening around them. The characters all complement each other uniquely and personally. They're quirky, but not in a way that ever gets on your nerves. They feel like real people with real problems, and you just end up rooting for them all to succeed. For example, one of the best dynamics in the show is between Janine and Barbara. Janine looks up to Barbara in a way that at first seems purely aspirational, but we later find out that the relationship means a lot to Janine because of a lack of support from her own mother in her own life. In fact, it feels like a lot of these characters are in their roles for their own reasons, to prove something to others or just to themselves by being there for these kids. The situational comedy is also top-notch here. I mean, you really have endless potential with an elementary school setting. And it never comes off as preachy or unrealistic. The characters are dealt a bad hand, but the system never bails them out or comes to their rescue. They just keep going in spite of it. But that also doesn't mean that the characters are stripped of any realistic conflict either. They deal with things like viral trends or TikTok challenges, or older teachers having to become accustomed to changing tech, or feeling like they're being pushed out in favor of the next new and shiny thing. Everyone is trying to do what's best for their class, like navigating the creation of a gifted students program or creating a community garden to help improve school lunches. And as someone with a lot of family and friends in the field of education, I see their struggles reflected in this show, and it's really also a reflection of what's going on in the country right now. I mean, an unprecedented number of school district unions are going on strike, and teachers are quitting in droves. It is harder than ever to be a teacher, but almost never for a lack of trying on the teacher's part, and this show really resonates in that way. And I mean, is it perfect? Not necessarily. Certain storylines are pretty predictable, but that's because the material understands what came before it and what it's borrowing from. In a lot of ways, Abbott just feels like a breath of fresh air that TV so desperately needs right now. The show is renewed for a second season, 22 episodes long, and I believe it comes back in a few weeks. It's also available to stream on HBO Max now, in addition to Hulu. And perhaps one of the most significant factors of all, award show trends have swung in Abbott's favor, most recently at the Emmys, with Quinta Brunson and Cheryl Lee Ralph, who plays Barbara, both taking home wins. This is even more impressive considering that the cast donated their Emmys marketing budget to school supply funds for public school teachers, and because the last time a network comedy won an Emmy for writing was 9 years ago, which is pretty insane. So, will we see more sitcom pitches going this route? I don't know, but as someone who still has cable, I'm excited for what comes next. Hello, my friends. Thank you for sticking around. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. I wanted to talk really quickly about my plans for October. So if you don't know, I put out a post on my community channel a couple days ago about my plans for a Halloween special. I did my first Halloween special last October. I worked with some very talented editing and makeup friends of mine to pull off a cohesive look and experience for a recap of Dragula seasons 1 through 3. I wanted to do something similar this year for Halloween, and when people gave their feedback, it sounded like people were kind of split on what they wanted me to cover. So if I have the capacity, I'm going to do a month-long Halloween series, and I'm going to cover MTV's Fear, Scream Queens, and Dragula Season 4, and possibly also the McCamey Manor rabbit hole if I do have the time and the interest. Another thing that I wanted your input on is in these videos, I might be dressing up in costume. I love to dress up, so if you have any ideas or suggestions, themed or not themed, let me know. I was Shigo for Halloween last year. Here's a picture somewhere on the screen. And that went pretty well, so let me know. And thanks for watching.